Welcome to Let's Get Into It. I am your host, Sherelle Higgins. Let's Get Into It is a safe space to have real conversations that are meant to uplift, encourage, and let you know you are not the only one dealing with life. Each episode of Let's Get Into It is designed to provide illuminating and thought-provoking information on a variety of topics. In fact, no topic is off limit. If you would like to see a topic discussed, please feel free to make a recommendation. My special guest and I will have a great time discussing topics that the mainstream media wouldn't dare discuss. We will bring these conversations to you with an open mind, respectfully, from different perspectives, and most importantly, with love. Thank you for joining me and my special guest. Now, let's get into it. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for the third episode of Let's Get Into It. I am your host, Sherelle Higgins. I'm really excited about my guest today, and I'll tell you why in a minute. However, I want you to please take the time to go to my YouTube page and subscribe. I would certainly appreciate that. I heard somebody say the other day that there is no podcast out here that encourages, supports, and really talk about the things in the Black community that will be helpful to the Black community to get ahead. And so I thought to myself, clearly they don't know about Let's Get Into It. So we are definitely going to always have conversations around topics that's going to be helpful to you. Um, Last weekend, as many of you know, I attended Virginia State University. And last weekend, we went to the CIAA, which is a Black basketball tournament that has lots and lots of parties. And so it is always a wonderful event, and I make it a priority to attend every year. The CIAA is an opportunity for my Virginia State family to get together and hang out so that we can keep our bond strong. We have a strong alumni, and we are connected to each other in our daily lives, and we support one another. And so CIAA is just a great time to be had. Um, Also, this is Women's History Month. And for Women's History Month, this is an opportunity for us to talk about and highlight special women. And my guest today is a special woman in my life and has had an impact on me since I was 18 years old. And she didn't even know who I was back then, but I watched her closely back then. And she let me know that it was okay to be the diva that I am. Also, yesterday was Founders Day for the Virginia State University. And once again, the Virginia State alumni got together and hung out to celebrate Founders Day. Because again, we are just that connected to one another that we not only appreciate Founders Day, but we really understand the important decision that we made back when we were 17, 18, 19 years old to attend Virginia State. I've seen many of my Virginia State family members saying that that was the best decision that they've ever made, and I agree. Tomorrow is International Women's Day. And so tomorrow, I will say to my women listeners, do something to celebrate yourself because you are phenomenal. And to the men that's listening in or watching, I say to you, do something special to recognize the woman that's in your life or the women, just to recognize them, even if it's just picking up the phone and saying, I appreciate you. I don't think women get that enough, and that's unfortunate. So, with that being said, I would like to welcome my guest for my third show, Dr. Paulette Walker Johnson.
Hello.
Dr. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm excited to be here.
Good. Let me just tell our audience a little bit about you, Dr. Johnson, in the event they don't know who you are. Dr.
Okay.
Paulette she spent 35 plus years coaching the internationally recognized Virginia State University Woo Woo cheerleading squad. She set the standard for college cheering programs. Dr. Paulette and the Woo Woos have been featured on both network and local TV stations, including in Jamaica. She is the first female athletic director in Virginia State University's history. She is a 2003 inductee of the Virginia State Wall of Fame and a 2011 inductee into the CIAA John B. McLendon Hall of Fame. Again, welcome, Dr. Johnson.
Well, I am grateful to be here, young lady, and thank you for all of that stuff. I forgot some of that information. It's nice to be here with you.
Well, good. Dr. Johnson, I am so excited to have you on because I really wanted us to have an opportunity to talk about, you know, who you were as that cheerleading coach, walking around campus, looking like one of the students, and having the impact that you had, not only on those young ladies that were woo woos, but also on those of us who were not woo woos. Because it's so important for us, particularly African American women, to support each other, to honor each other, and to encourage each other. So, my first question to you is how did you know? Did you come up with the name Woo Woos?
I can't tell you all the secrets. If I do it, then you got to become a woo woo and put on the uniform and go out there. If I tell you all of that, but that was yeah. To make a long story short, I was 22 years old and I got the job at Virginia State, and I came on as a full-time physical educator. And I was told that I was going to coach the cheerleaders at that time. They were having some issues with the coach and so forth. So they gave it to me. Never applied for the job, Sherelle, but there I was, 22 now. So the name and the vision and all of that kind of fell into place because I am from Petersburg, Virginia, 23803. And I don't know if you know, being from the south side of Chicago, but when you got a job at state, we used to call it on campus, it was a big deal. So I came from the local high school, went away to college, came back and got a job at state on the hill. Honey. So I was just on a mission to be successful and do the best that I could do. So there I was. I keep telling people, had they given me the band, we'd be talking about the band right now because I was going to do the best that I could to show my gratitude.
Okay, and so were you a cheerleader in college?
I was. I was a cheerleader in high school and I was a cheerleader at Morgan State. And yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so was the cheering style different when you were a cheerleader versus what you developed and presented at Virginia State?
I'm glad you asked it. I'm always happy when someone asks that question because I give honor to Gussie Jenkins Dickens, my high school coach. I loved her. She was a product of Virginia State. And I love that lady. She was from my department, health and physical education. She became my mentor, my friend, and she sent me away. So we were pretty decent as high school cheerleaders back in the day. I go to Morgan State, and my colleagues that I cheered with at Morgan were not going to disagree, but we were not the greatest squad. We did not have a lot of coaching, but we
Okay.
did the best that we could do. Shout out to OC and Kathy and Esther and all of the girls that I cheered with. But we had no coaching at that time, and that's the truth. Somebody was assigned to us, but never gave. So when I graduated, got my master's, and came back to state and was told I was going to have the cheerleaders, I simply became the cheerleader coach that I always wanted,
Okay.
never had, and that's how it was. So I'm a combination of the wonder of Gussie Jenkins Dickens, who she eventually got married, who coached me in high school, and what I didn't get in at Morgan State. And that's who I became. No previous coaching experience at all. But I had God, girl, and the wonderful foundation of cheerleaders that were there when I arrived.
Okay. And so I know that you would have a cheerleading camp.
Mhm.
And is that typically how you identified your cheerleaders?
Well, remember now, there were about 8 young ladies there when I got there, and I
Okay.
was told I could get rid of everybody, but I had good sense not to come and new to a school and get rid of all the squad. So I talked to them, and they agreed to stay. And there was only a handful though, so I knew I would have to have tryouts. So what I did, I taught them every cheer that I had from Morgan, right?
Okay.
And we started a program. So yes, that following spring we had tryouts, but it took a while for us to develop into the woo that you know now, because I was laying a foundation, and again, I had no real experience, but you make it do what it do. I let it work. What we had wonderful young ladies who were willing to work. I gave them some fresh cheers because I stole everything from Morgan and brought it there. And Morgan was in a different conference, and that was our foundation. They're called actually the foundation of Woo, and that was it. So no, the style evolved. Sherelle, Black women, we got something, we got a smile and we can move. We got rhythm. So that was a basis right there. I taught gymnastics, but we did not do a lot of stunts and tumbling and lifts and things like that at that time.
Okay. I know you taught gymnastics because I took your class.
Yes. I'm surprised. Yeah, you it should look like woo material to me. But anyway, that's a
And
whole
I
nother
was a
story.
cheerleader in high school too.
Okay, okay.
So, Dr. Johnson, when you're working with
Mhm.
young ladies, 18, 19 years old, some may even be 17,
Yeah.
um, that's usually a stage in life where we think we're grown
Yes.
and we really start to come into our own. How
Hmm.
were you able to channel these young ladies energy in such a way that they could then cheer in front of these large crowds and be together and look together and do their thing?
As we talk about it from time to time, I'd like to have some of them on and ask them why did they listen to this 22-year-old, bald head almost. That my hair was really short. I was small, but I believe it was God's will because
Mm.
eventually Wu became a ministry to me, or it felt that way because I knew nothing, Sherelle. But what I did know was to pray and ask God to give me what I would need to lead these ladies. So you cannot be a leader unless someone follows you. So why did they follow me without incident? And there was one, and if she's on here now, we had one occasion that I had to get some things straight. But even after that, after having that conversation, I simply said, look, they gave me this job. I'm your coach. And it's going to be kind of my way or the highway. I don't think I use that term, but that's the way I lead. And
Okay.
either they were excited to follow or just said, well, this lady looks, she might be crazy. I think I'm just going to do what she tells me to do. Because once they began to do that, it was easy for me at least. And they just followed and I got better. They taught me a lot about how to be a coach.
Hmm.
But, we began to innovate. And I just still say it was a lot of prayer because they could have run me up out of there had they wanted to.
Right. So, one of the things I noticed about being on campus or being on the yard with, as it relates to the woo woos,
Hmm.
um, I noticed that they all, when they presented themselves to the public, even when they weren't cheering,
Yeah.
that they were put together. How important was that for your team?
Thank you so much for noticing. And it was far more than athleticism. It was attitude, academics, and then the athleticism. And I've always held this notion that if you look good, whatever good is, whatever flavor it comes in, half of the battle is over. So there came the smile, the positive presentation, the correct attitude. So I think I worked on that more than anything else. And see, then you want to see what that young lady has to offer. And in some cases later on became men. But who wants to see a grouchy, bad attitude? I don't want to hear what you have to say, much less watch you move. So that's where we started. Let's make sure that we are physically fit. And remember, I told you I was a physical education teacher.
Mhm.
Let's make sure that we look good, whatever it is we are wearing or doing. And some of them will go and admit to you that we even had things like, how do we conduct ourselves in the classroom? I
Mm.
used to tell them, if everybody's cutting up in the classroom, it better not be a woo-woo.
Right.
You see, even if the teacher deserves it at some point, you better not participate. You don't walk on the grass on my campus, because Virginia State's a beautiful campus.
Yes.
Woo-woos don't walk on the grass. The woo-woos don't act up in the cafeteria to the cafeteria lady. They don't disrespect her because your chicken wasn't quite done enough. Act like that's your mother back there.
Mm.
So it was so many life lessons, honey, that we got around to some cheering too, but woo is a bunch of lessons.
And that's good, Dr. Paulette, because my sister Sharon always says, when you go outside the house, you don't ever want to disappoint your public.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what I hear you saying, right?
And
And
you all live that too. Your family. I can tell that that's a family the pattern for you all. And it shows.
when we were growing up, I have all sisters, but when we were growing up, my mother used to always say, um, don't leave out of this house looking any kind of way.
That's right. That's right.
She never told us what any kind of way was. She never described it, but somehow
Mhm.
we knew
That's
what
right.
any kind of way was.
And you know, I thought it, like I said, that's the way I carried myself. So generally the woo-woos become an extension of me.
Mhm.
I was, for many of them I was their teacher as well. So it was no escaping. And I am from Petersburg. Everybody in Petersburg knew. So if they did something in the city,
Mhm.
they would come to me, whether it was good or bad. So it was just no escaping. And that was a wonderful thing. I think we've lost some of that. In fact, Sherelle, I wish that everybody in charge of every organization forever would feel like I did about the woo-woos. They were my responsibility. I took it personally. And it wasn't just about cheerleading. It was 24/7, 365. But I let them know that. And if you are not willing to work under that type of leadership, woo woo is not for you. And a lot of people chose not to. They just, it doesn't take all that. I just want to cheer. Well, it does take that to cheer for Paulette Walker Johnson. And at
Yeah.
that time, I wasn't even married. I had no kids. I didn't have anything to do but invested in the program, honey.
Um, so Eugene Urgentine, what's her name?
Yes, Argentine.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
She says high expectations are needed again.
Wow, that's
And
right.
I completely agree
That's
with
right.
that.
That's right.
Um,
It-
and
Um, excuse me,
with
Cheryl. She won't mind me telling since she chimed in. Argentine is my first cousin.
okay, yeah, she put that in the
Our
comment.
parents are brother and sister. And she'll tell it herself. She tried out knowing she shouldn't have tried out for Woo. She was not. She was more of a pageant girl. But because her roommate was going to try out, she decided I'm going to try out too. And she tells this story of how dare my first cousin cut me. And but we knew we hugged it out, but she knew that that was not for her. And my standards were such that it didn't matter if you were my first mother. If you didn't meet the qualifications of Woo, you were not going to make it. And I held to that. And I guess as the standard stayed, it got better and better. Tina went on to be Miss Black Virginia and did her pageantry thing, and she had a level of respect for me, and I maintained that throughout. However, during your years, so many girls were coming out that you might get missed. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that should have or could have qualified, but it's just too many people were trying out, if you remember.
Yes, I remember it was quite a few.
Yeah, yeah.
And everybody on campus knew when tryouts were.
That's right. That's right. But I think, and to respond to Argentine, people want to be a part of a winning program, whatever winning is.
Yes.
If your standards are high, they'll rise to the level of that expectation. And because that original foundation of WU that I did not pick, some of those girls were there when I got there, but they allowed me to push a little bit more. Each year we raised the standard a little bit higher, and it just became fun. And then the community, the campus community, began to expect those high standards from
Oh,
WU.
absolutely.
I didn't have to do anything. People say she's a woo-woo, she can't do this, she can't do that, and that was making it easy for me.
Okay. So our Virginia State University resident DJ, Daryl Crush, says, strive for perfection, you'll undoubtedly hit excellence.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Excellence. Excellence is what the woo-woos were and are.
Okay.
And that's contributed to who you were as a leader.
Yeah.
And who you were as a woman, because many of us, Dr. Paulette, growing up, a lot of us came from, the inner cities of Chicago and New York and New Jersey, right? Many of us did not see professional women consistently
in
the workplace.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were not only a professional Black woman at a university, I had never been on a college campus until I came to Virginia State.
Wow. That's not
let me correct that. Until my sisters came to Virginia State.
Right.
Because then I came, to visit them.
That's right. I could feel the eyes. I could feel the pressure on me. And I impose a lot of pressure on myself. As I told you, I am 22 years old. I have been given a job. I have no experience. My community is standing on my shoulders. My parents, my younger brother who graduated Virginia State University. I don't know if you all know Wayne Walker is my brother. He was a freshman the year I started teaching there.
Oh,
wow. So I think that everybody is watching me, and everything associated with me is going to be judged. But that's what I said. God stepped in there, because I'm going to tell you this secret. Little people don't know this. It would have to be God. If 35 years of coaching, there was never, and you can call the woo-woos up and tell them to hit you up and validate this, not one time did anyone come against me where I had to, put them off or be confronted by something. The things that women go through in groups. We always, because we're women.
Yes.
And we have differences in opinions, but for some reason, and I can only attribute it to it being my mission. And God says, where he sends you, he's going to provide you what you need.
Absolutely.
Give you the people in your way. And it kept happening. The administrators during that time, they let me do my program what I wanted. They supported it. I would have department chairs who would let me get off early out of the meeting because we got to work on our routine, or the Norfolk State Hampton game is this, and everybody cooperated. And those awesome. Are the kinds of things that you need.
Oh, absolutely. Because as Sharon and I talked about in the last episode, it's rare for organizations to support African-American women like that without becoming intimidating or thinking that you think you're getting too big and you're getting too many accolades, and it gets rough. So it's so great to hear that you had a great support system to make sure that you could deliver the type of program that was needed And that was recognized, that brought a positive light to the school.
Terrell, I remember when we first started, and I tell this story often. Nobody was paying attention to cheerleading at the game. Okay, so we started looking exciting in the new cheers and all. So they might look out one eye. Okay, whatever. So we got daring and took off the turtlenecks and just had skin showing. Every cheerleader had on a blouse up to here and a turtleneck. And I said, well, let's just take the turtleneck away for now. And we showed a little bit of skin at that time. And then the excitement started making, and I would sit in the audience to try to get a feel of what the audience would say. And each year we get a little bit more daring, a little bit more creative, and a little bit cuter, and fix this up and get that. And I remember one guy says, I was in the stands, and it was timeout. And he said, they said, you going to get some popcorn or something? He said, no, 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 no. These girls getting ready to come out. Them woo girls getting ready. Wait a minute. I can't go. And I said, gotcha. Yeah. And so each year it was, how can I keep the audience interested? And then walking in front of Foster Hall, somebody would say, perhaps the resident DJ, and some of those guys said, Dr. Johnson, you got a good crop this year. I'm gonna see what you're gonna do. The pressure was always on me. They expected a lot from those young ladies and myself. Okay. And I was glad to deliver, honey.
And that you did.
I was glad. It was during some years also where athletics, we were not doing well on the field sometimes. Mm-hmm. So it was a natural gravitation toward, well, we may not have won the game, but our cheerleaders beat yours. And, did you recognize now that, and I know not at the tournament, but at home games, cheerleaders don't even compete like we used to do years ago.
They don't.
Yeah. They might do a little dance off, but every game was represent the Trojans, honey.
And that they did. So Carolyn wanted you to share how you taught about relationships.
Okay, taught about relationships. We had a lot of rules going on. And, with a lot of women working together, we had things, and I'm sure she's from the era. If we had an issue, and certainly they did come up, we had something called a lemon squeeze. And that's where that Monday morning, let's come together and talk about it, and we're going to work it out. But see, that's your sister beside you. And I would always tell them, you can't cheer well if you don't like her, or you have an attitude about something she did. So let's resolve it. And if you can't resolve it, somebody got to go, because that bad feeling, that bad attitude can spoil the whole bunch. So when they were smiling, they actually were smiling because they liked one another. They enjoyed working together. But whenever, and I hope that's what she means, but we had rules like you don't mess with your sister's boyfriend, because that can cause a whole lot of trouble. So if you gotta have him, both of y'all got to go somebody. But see, we instilled those house rules, if you will. And if your sister is in trouble, you're in trouble. We got to fix that, help that. It was just general things. And I don't know where I got it from, except I just did what I wish somebody had done for me. If I can share this example, at Morgan, we didn't have the coaching. I told you, no coach ever came to practice and helped us out or anything. So on game day, you get out of class and you go get your uniform out the locker room. So if you didn't get there first, the big girl, a girl bigger than me, would get the small uniform. So by the time I got there, Sherelle, I'm a size 5. I got to wear the 12 because that's all that's left. If I want to cheer, I got to roll it up.
Oh, wow.
And look a mess, where she looked like a hot, sexy mama in that little skirt. I wanted a coach to come in and say, that's not fair. That's not right. So in relating to my girls, I never put them in situations like that. I'm going to make the decision. You just cheer and be a good person.
Right.
And let all the hard work fall on me as your coach. I will lead you through that. And that solved a lot of things.
Oh, I'm sure, because nobody ever looked a mess.
Well,
Not in
thank
those
you.
uniforms.
Did you notice how the uniforms evolved over the years?
Yes, absolutely.
I tell the girls now they're repeating because the uniforms they have now, we had those back, but we did everything. We pushed that button as far as we could go with the uniforms because I believe in proper presentation.
Yes,
And I know you do too. Like, look at you. You're always looking the part, and that's half of the battle.
it really is. And like you said, if you look good, you feel good.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
you act better too. And people
and it doesn't
respond
take.
to you better.
And yes, and if you dress well, people think you're smart, right?
That,
And they approach
hello.
you differently.
That's why the receptionist always has to look good. You don't have a horrible person at your front desk. That speaks to the
Absolutely. Well,
whole
I
office.
when I took a job, Dr. Paulette, when I walked in the office, I had this lady. She had literally, she was using red Kool-Aid to color her hair, and she
See?
had on a skull cap.
Uh-huh.
I was
Uh-huh.
like, ooh,
Yeah. Not working. Because
yeah, that's not
I'm
gonna
getting a
work.
feeling some kind of way just hearing about it. But see, and then I have been accused of picking people only for this, and it was never that. We had every hue, every shape, every size. We've had tall, short, lean, thick, whatever you say. There's a woo woo that can match it, and I dare anybody to say that it wasn't, but everybody got to have their reasons. We've had
Right.
long hair, short hair, bald, whatever works, but you got to be beautiful and carry it. That's all that was meaningful to me.
And it also, you know, your style of coaching instilled confidence
Yeah,
into the woo
yeah,
woos
yeah,
as individuals,
yeah,
because as we know, many women struggle with self-confidence and self-esteem.
exactly.
And so that's an important factor that you could just tell. And even like, as I see them now as adults, mothers, wives, they have that confidence, and it's because of you helping to instill that into them.
I am so proud of the hundreds of women and a handful of men that have come through the program because I'm never disappointed. They are excellent leaders. They
Mhm.
run their organizations, and a lot of them tell me they got all those principles and patterns from Woo. We don't talk about one another outside. You handle your stuff inside. You
Yes,
you smile through it. You keep going. You don't let things break you. I always tell them you got a couple of weeks and you better get over anything in a couple of weeks. Put God first. So they have done that, and I see the successes all over. You see them on Facebook and what they're doing, and
absolutely.
the girls that went viral. That
Yes,
was amazing. But their lives, and there's so many stories very much like that. All of them could go viral with if they told their stories, but they are just phenomenal. And for me to think that anything I said or did had any impact, it's just a blessing. And God is not finished with us yet, honey.
he
He
is not.
still is moving through Woo, so we don't know what's to come.
And it's so important for us to be obedient to our calling,
Yeah,
right? What the responsibility that God gives each of us is so important to be obedient to that. So I'm pretty sure that not only the woo woos and the other students who admired you from afar, but the administration of the school, the community, everybody is thankful that you were obedient to your purpose and your calling.
let me say this. You have, and I'm saying you, Virginia State University is like no other. Now, come on, I went to Morgan State, and that's the orange and blue, but it's nothing like the love at Virginia State University. I
Nothing.
talk about it all the time. It is no denying it. They can say what they want to. It's a different kind of bird. So you all have shown me and Woo through recognitions of all types that you have appreciated it. And that's why I say it's your organization because I know I was motivated over the looks, the smiles. Daniel Gymnasium, y'all have been there. You have to get a seat. You might skip the calf to get a
Right.
seat at a big game. And when the
Absolutely.
Woo Woos came out, it was just love. That
Yes.
stuff motivated us. That
Mm-hmm.
made us practice more. And just the kind of respect that my teams had for me. I mean, I can't thank them enough. And I always do. I don't even want to start crying, but I can't think about it too much. 35 years, the people that had come through. But you guys in the audience, the student body was equally a part of our success.
So Sean wanted me to ask you, was it ever a time where an outside agency, other school wanted her to bring her talent? Oh, was there anybody else who tried to pull you away from Virginia State? And if so, why did you decide to stay?
Girl, because I'm loyal like that. And woo was my
Yes.
baby. Let me tell you this, but it was kind of cute at the time. And if he didn't want me to tell it, he shouldn't have done it. But Hampton University president was very competitive. And he just was. Called me and said, what would it take to
Mm.
get you here? Now, that was the question. And for a hot second, not longer, I wondered, what is it? I was newly married. I had a young child. And my husband at the time could have relocated. But my heart was so at Virginia State. Do you know, at a time when I didn't have much money, I turned it down. I said, are you crazy? He did say, what would it take? He didn't say what the figure was. I could have said some number, but my loyalty was to Virginia State. And at that time, Dr. Leon Bay was the athletic director. I told him that story. They gave me a little raise, and I was the feature person on the front page of the Statesman. And I felt so honored that I said, I wasn't going to leave you anyway, but it sure is nice to be appreciated. I couldn't go, baby. Petersburg was my home. Virginia State was my love. And I was going down with it. And never truly made a whole lot of money. But you see, when you are on a calling, it is not the money that is
It is
going to
not.
make it anyway. People, you ask anybody who's done something like that, it was never the money.
The money, my father-in-law used to tell me all the time, don't chase money, the money will come.
Yeah, that's right. And I honestly, sometimes I feel a little bit silly that I didn't demand more because I probably could have gotten it. But what I was getting, money can't buy. And when
Yeah.
the prayer line, when I go on the prayer line and people, I said, look, I'm talking about Jesus right now. I'm not talking about woo woo, but they won't let it rest. That's where my recognition comes from. I was a
But
pretty good
it was
teacher,
so
you all too.
it was so impactful.
Yeah,
Sean also says she still knows the Trojan beat.
I sure do.
Look, so when my kids were in high school, they had a teacher who went to Virginia State.
Uh-huh.
And of course, they had Virginia State gear on, and they were telling the teacher that their parents went to Virginia State. And
Mhm.
so when we went to the school for teacher touch base or back to whatever it was, the teacher walked up to us and he was like, "Well, this is how I know for sure if you went to Virginia State." And
Uh-huh.
he started doing the Trojan beat. I fell right in with him. He was like,
That's
"Okay,
right.
you went to
That's
Virginia
right.
State."
I I think it's now Work It probably is going to be that anthem of a cheer, but you're right. You just knew, and I don't know, y'all. You needed to have just been down there. I could sit in the audience and watch Woo Woos perform at games, and every game. Do you remember when every game was packed
Yes.
and the schools just competed and the atmosphere in there was all, and nobody fought, nobody did anything. Everybody just loved. I sit now and watch the MPC and I said, where are you all? If we only had the student body, but students are interested in doing other things. And, it's just, I don't even know. I tell people, I don't even know if I could woo like it was in the past. Do you think the young ladies would follow like they did then back in the day? What do you think?
I think they would,
Hmm.
but I think because of your style of leadership, you would have probably more people trying to buck up against the
I
system.
got you.
Uh,
Sherelle, the phone. See, we didn't even have technology then.
And
Because
thank
you're not gonna
God
bring
we
a phone
didn't.
in practice to me. So I there, stop right there. You see?
Right, right. And so I think the majority would fall in line, but there would be those few outliers who would try to buck the system.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why God said in 2010, "Come on, Paulette, that's enough. Well
Hmm.
done, well done. It's time for you to retire, and hopefully, um, the patterns and the principles and the values will carry on. But it's a different era.
It
It's a different
definitely is. It
era.
definitely is. So Carolyn asked, did VSU support you with funds for uniforms?
Yeah. Okay. Remember, VSU did not have a lot of funds during
Right.
that time. It was very lean years. I've been at Virginia State, and I came in 1974. I've been there when we did not have money for to make copies for our test series,
Mm-hmm.
and then I've been there when we could get whatever we wanted. Now, for the most part, yes, I was able to get whatever I needed. However, you knew not to need too much because they didn't have it. Um, I remember when I was driving a raggedy van, and
Mm-hmm.
then it got to they assigned somebody to me that I never had to drive again. So we had the shuttle. There were different eras that went through, but let this be noted that every administrator supported Wu because of our representation of the school. They
Mm-hmm.
they knew that we were ambassadors, so they wanted to see us do well. They wanted to see us be successful. I remember one time I went to, I think it was Colonel Dow was at that time chief of staff, so it was Eddie Moore's administration, and I asked, I said, we got permission to have a fundraiser because we wanted something new because they were coming for us, Sherelle, and they were now taking our cheers and doing all this. I said, I gotta do something. Girls, we gotta learn how to fly or something because they getting too close to us. So I wanted to up the game with the uniforms. And I went to request a fundraiser so we could get some. And somebody said, nope. All y'all got to do is tell us what you need and we'll get it.
Oh,
And I was then honored. That's when I knew that Virginia State University respected woo woo enough to make sure that I had what I need. So I had not, if I didn't ask, that's the only
that's
time
my.
I did. But if I asked, we got it. And I attribute that to they knew we were going to represent well.
Mm-hmm. Hold on. Bernard said, yes, Daniel's gymnasium was on fire.
Yes, 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 yes. I long for those moments. In fact, I act crazy sometimes, and then people look at me like it doesn't take all of that. But I'm from the old school where you got into it.
Right. And you know what? Clearly that style worked
Mhm.
for
Yeah,
for my
yeah,
generation.
it did, it
Um,
did,
and
it
I
did.
truly believe it would work for this current generation
Yeah, yeah,
because it worked for my kids, right? They were
exactly,
the younger generation. It worked for them. It's like so, the whole notion that parents aren't parenting anymore
exactly.
for
I
whatever
listened.
reason.
I listened to your first show, and I found out from that you and I, we parent alike. Our styles are very much alike. I believe that young people, your children that you're responsible for, they want leadership. They
Oh,
they they
absolutely.
expect it, and when you don't give it to them, they don't respect you for not giving it to them. And I'm going to give it. You don't have to like it, but you're going to respect me because I'm going to respect you. And once you do that, it goes. I'm reminded of one of the things, and I hope I can say this at this point, but we are trying to make sure that the principles and the patterns that Wu has won't be forgotten in the future. You see, because we're too
Yes.
easy to give up on what was working. I'm not giving up on the stuff that worked, and I'm trying to be new millennial and look at the future. But there's some stuff we need to bring from the past and don't let it go.
Absolutely.
And I'm not letting mine go. As for me and my house, as for me and my organizations, that's how I would think it should be. And if more people did that, we would stop being such cowards. God needs some soldiers that are brave for him and
Oh,
what he
absolutely.
stands for.
Absolutely. And we do a disservice when we don't show up as parents
Right.
for our kids and
Right.
their friends,
Right.
right?
That's right.
Because we have to do it, and when we don't do it, we then turn around and send these individuals into the workplace
Uh-huh.
where they think that attitude doesn't have to be good.
Right.
They think they can half-ass the work, right?
Exactly.
And
And,
there's no accountability.
and that's the word, account. And don't tell me you can't do it, because my son, Patrick Wayne Johnson, VSU graduate, by the way, Patrick grew up without his father in the household. Don't tell me nothing about dysfunction. There was nothing dysfunctional about his
Right,
household. His father just didn't live there.
right,
We functioned quite well. We had rules, we had accountability, standards. And once you put those and do not relent, who's going to not follow them? You,
right.
I mean, it's as simple as that to me. Now, maybe I'm not out there, but
But
if the
see,
go
those
ahead.
rules you had for the woo-woos
Mhm.
allowed them to go into the workplace and understand how to
Mhm.
present themselves,
Mhm.
how to live up to high expectations without fear
Uh-huh. That's
and
right.
without compromise,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
know um, how to represent themselves.
Right.
And those rules were so helpful.
And the structure doesn't change, Sherelle. Just because you're running, and shout out to Glennis Crosby if she's on. Glennis told me she was running her beauty salon, her business, like woo woo. They had
Mm,
disagreements, they got together, lemon squeeze. She decided how I want the building to look, or your stations to look.
hmm.
Pick the uniform. Come on. So once you establish that and people feel comfortable, one of the things some of the my former students and former athletes would say, they can feel safe with me because I
Hmm.
got your back and I'm
Right.
going to hold that principle. So
Absolutely.
you begin to feel safe. And once people feel safe and secure, they are then free to excel. But if I'm worried
Absolutely.
about treatment and are you going to be fair? That's not for you to worry about. I got that. You just perform.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, let's see. Hold
I,
on.
you got another question?
Yes, I'm catching up on the comments. Um, Cheryl says values, integrity, and good character never goes out of style.
That's right. That's right.
That's a
But
mouthful.
we let them go because we are afraid. I never was afraid of my athletes or afraid of my students. If you are fearful, you're in the wrong area. Go get back on the porch if you're scared. And even when you're scared, you can't let them know you're scared. So, that they respect you for doing what you are supposed to do.
And
I
and
I want to make a little announcement if I can.
oh yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'm gonna. We have, this is our 50th year. Thank you for having me on at this time. But this is the 50th year of Woo, and we're presenting our 50th anniversary gala, and it's going to be in March. One of the things I'm going to launch at that gala is Woo Nation, a nonprofit. And one of the missions of it is to make sure that we have some kind of physical structure on campus so Woo will never be forgotten. So those of you listening, I'll be coming back to you talking about Woo Nation, but mostly that we will instill values that will never go out of style. So when you look at that structure, whatever it might be, a monument, a statue, or a plaque, whatever, you will know that some people came on this campus that put God first,
Mm-hmm.
um, understood getting along was important, understood the whole notion that you got to perform well, you got to look good, you got to have the right attitude, and they made an impact on the community. And that's one of the missions of Woo Nation, will be to make sure that we do that. And after we do that for Woo Nation, we want to recognize the other folk. Other than me, I had some wonderful colleagues who made a difference on that campus, but they're not there anymore. Nobody sees them. There's nothing to recognize them, like Harold Dean, and
Right.
Lou Anderson and Catherine Bennett and Pete
Mm-hmm.
Bennett. Those people did wonderful things for Virginia State University, and we can't let them be forgotten.
Okay. Crush asks, will there be a mechanism where we can donate?
Absolutely. Thank you, Crush. You can just holler at me personally and give it to me if you want to. But Woo Nation will have, and I like I said, I'm going to launch it in the March at the gala and
Okay.
give you all of that information. Of course, I'll come back on these platforms to let you know, but it will be, and you'll be able to contribute. Um, I'm waiting for one more step for the nonprofit process, and it's about done, but it'll be done by March. Thank you
Okay.
for asking, and you'll be
Yes.
hearing more.
Because you have a lot of Virginia State alumni who will support you and your nonprofit. So we will definitely make sure that we get that information out to everybody once I see it and
Thank
get it so that we can donate and support your nonprofit.
Thank you. And I want to add that once we get this structure for Woo and go to others, I'm thinking about a legacy plaza. Then we
Mm,
want to have something each year on campus. And you mentioned camps earlier. We used to have
mhm.
Woo camps, but we will have camps for your grandchildren and your children who may want to come and spend 3 days on campus to get the Woo experience, if you will. We
I love
can't do it all in, but we'll keep them on campus, that beautiful campus, for 3 days. And I said 3 days because I can't take a week. I'm getting too old. 3 days. Don't ask for longer. And we are going to have them go through some of the training that we did. We talked about articulation.
it.
We talk about attitude. So I can't wait. You can see I'm excited about it, but you'll hear more soon.
Okay, so I wanna end on this highlight.
Okay.
You were quoted um, as saying that this is a conversation that you often share, and so you would say at camp,
Oh, yeah.
"Are you a diva?"
Yes.
And the campers would say, "Yes,
Yes.
ma'am, I am." And then you would say, "Well, how do I know?" And the campers would say, "I have a beautiful mind, a beautiful face, and a beautiful attitude all over this place, diva."
How did you get that? Who told you that?
Because I did my homework.
Oh, yeah, you sure did. Listen, think about that. I have a beautiful mind, meaning you got to think good thoughts. You got to
Absolutely.
be grounded. I have a beautiful face. Yes, I think I'm cute. I don't care what shape, size, what kind of hair. I think I'm cute. And I have a beautiful attitude all over this place. And if you got that, that's the diva I'm talking about. And you're
Oh,
going to win
absolutely.
every time.
And I was so excited when I saw that because sometimes people try to put a negative connotation on the word diva.
That's right.
And so I have my great nephews and my great, it's calling me Auntie Diva.
Uh-huh. It's a wonderful thing. And
And if
own it. Own
and if
it.
I ever have
Yeah.
grandkids, they gonna call me Grandma Diva.
Sherelle, there's a difference between arrogance and
Oh,
confidence.
oh, for
And
sure.
again, when you work hard, people would run into me. Oh, the woo woos are so good. My arrogance wanted to say, I know, but my confidence said they better be as hard as we work. Why wouldn't they be good? Yeah, yeah. But
Yes.
don't get it twisted. I'm humble
Oh
by
yeah.
this whole experience. And when we remain humble, God will elevate us. And that's what he did with Woo. And as I said again, he's not finished with us yet. Keep your eyes on the Woo.
Absolutely. And with that, I just want to take the opportunity to give you your flowers
Thank
and
you.
let you know that your impact went far beyond the woo woos. And I, for one, certainly appreciated watching you from afar and then later in life, really starting to get to know you and talking to you because it's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you. for being my guest. And if you all could just stay with me, we are going to go into what the hell, the part of the segment, what the hell. So I would like to ask you, do you have someone in your life who causes you to ask them and ask yourself, what the hell? You know, this is a person who's an adult who lies and laughs often. You both know that they are lying and they don't mind you calling them out on their lies. The person may be a family member or maybe a friend. So you don't or can't immediately cancel them because they're very entertaining, but they make your behind tired. So you are constantly asking them and yourself, what the hell? As Dr. Paulette and I discussed, it's important to support each other, but it often doesn't stop you from asking yourself, what the hell? Thank you for joining me for my third episode. I will be back on March 21st with the fourth episode. I look forward to you all joining me. I have a great guest lined up for my next episode. So I hope everyone stay blessed or is obedient to God's word and purpose for their life. And everybody have a great evening. Thank you for joining and participating in Let's Get Into It. I want to thank my special guest for being brave enough to get into it. Without you, these conversations cannot happen. Remember, different viewpoints, respect, and love are the foundations of Let's Get Into It. If there's a topic you think I should discuss, drop me a recommendation. If you're interested in being my special guest, let me know because we can and will get into it. Have a great day on purpose, and I look forward to your continued engagement and support as we get into it.